All right, guys, welcome to our second video, our second recap show here. This is after our second stop of the season on Cherokee Lake with Tennessee Christian Bass Anglers. I got Kelsey here again with us. We're going to break down the top three. We're going to talk a little bit about what we did to catch some fish. We're going to look at the conditions. We're even going to preview our next stop coming up, Chickamauga here. It's actually coming up in just about another week. We're doing this video a little bit later. We had a lot of things going on, but again, recap Cherokee, preview Chickamauga real quick. But the way things set up for us is, of course, the way the spring is, you're always dealing with fronts pushing through. You're always dealing with changing weather. And we had that exact setup here. It was very nice earlier in the week, had a little bit of a front come through, blew every cloud you could find out of the way. We started out with 35, mid 30s that morning as far as air temperature goes, warmed up around 60, but with the wind and stuff, it never felt like it was super hot out there, super warm. It didn't feel like it was 60 degrees. So really just starting out. Kelsey, I'll let you start out first. Talk a little bit about what y'all did, how you felt about your day, reflect on it. I'll talk about what we did, and then we'll get into those top three and see what they were really keying in on.
Well, okay, let's start here. So I didn't feel really good about the day. We had two fish, which I mean, I guess was good. I mean, I think we ended up in the top 10 at least. I want to say seven or eight,
Yeah, it was
10,
tough on people.
7 or
I,
8
I think probably
placements.
half the field zeroed again, kind of similar to
Oh
what we
yeah,
saw
yeah. It was
at
it
Holson.
the conditions were really rough for our this time of year fishing. I want to say what we had the most success on. Well, Dad had the most success on was Carolina rigging a 6-inch green pumpkin and silver flake lizard. And
Really?
we're talking the big Carolina rig, not like
Yeah.
a finesse rig type deal. We're talking, the ounce and a quarter tungsten weight, throwing it out
Okay.
there and dragging it back as slow as you could. And that's how we caught our fish.
What kind of depth
Um,
range you think y'all were keying in on there when you're getting bit?
I want to say they were probably in the 10 to 15 foot range. Um, I mean, we started off the morning throwing Kitex and A rigs and jerk baits and things like that, and just never had a bite. I want to say I may have had just a couple of fish come up and tickle the tail on my Kitex,
Yeah.
but I mean, didn't nothing committed. But that was really the only things that we were able to get bit on. Water clarity was a I want to say that was a big factor in how tough the conditions were. We had a lot of rain
Yeah.
leading up to the tournament, so I mean, water clarity was awful.
Yeah.
Really, I
And from
mean,
what I heard, if you went up above 25E, it got super stained, chocolate milk even further up. And
mhm.
that was one thing me and you had been talking about was the difference in kind of what you were seeing because you're in that 25E area. And then we were further on down the lake, down past German Creek, and it was super, super clear. But now your all's bites on the Carolina rig earlier in the day, later in the day.
um, it was kind of in the middle. I mean,
Okay.
I want to say the second keeper came later in the day. I'd say the first one came about midday, and then I want to say the second one came probably about an hour and a half before the tournament was over.
Okay. Which
So I
check in
mean,
was 3 o'clock. So yeah.
and, and I'll say this: they were both on the same spot on the bank where they were caught. So it was like there was a little transition area there
Okay.
that the fish could relate to, and that was the only place that we actually caught a fish was on
Okay.
that spot, and then that exact area right there on the bank was
Yeah.
where they were caught.
Well, I see it. I found the same thing with the transition area. The two places we ended up with three keepers on the day, never could get our fourth and our fifth, but it was not, we didn't catch anything in the same place. We didn't revisit the same areas. But it was the same situation. It was a transition area. Our first fish, if you're heading down past German Creek, right before it kind of breaks into the islands and the more open water, you've got that first big island right there. And we stopped there on the tail end of that bluff as it transitions and makes a little saddle and flattens out, and caught one on a jerk bait. And then we just kind of eased across the saddle into that pocket right there in front of that island. And it was the same situation. It went from that kind of limestone, some broken up stuff, to just red clay. and it was on that transition where we got bit on the jerk bait a second time. And then our third and our final fish came working our way into a pocket on a crankbait. And the two that we were actually throwing, I was throwing a mega bass. This is in the Allergy bone color. I threw the shallow running and the deeper running. So the 110 and the 110 plus one. And then, of course, just the tried and true spring crankbait, a DT10, and that demon color was what Dad was throwing when he caught our biggest fish, that bigger smallmouth. But again, those transitions seem to be key, and these fish were definitely pre-spawn. And one thing you're going to see, guys, when we watch the videos of these top three, the one thing that they all had in common, and Kelsey definitely this as well, but Main Lake seemed to be around deeper water. I think me and Dad were pushing it a little bit fast. We were kind of getting more into that transition into the flatter stuff, where they would really be pushing into spawn here pretty soon. So I think that was interesting to see where we caught them as compared to where I kind of heard from these top three and how they caught them. So, guys, we're going to get into these videos, and I think what we're going to do here is we're going to let these three videos play. Okay. And actually probably two. We had some audio issues with Wiley and Fred, our third place team, but we're going to let these videos play, and then we'll break these down after these videos run, and you get to hear them talk about what they did.
So how did y'all catch them today?
We caught them in about anywhere from 35 to 40 feet of water. Started out throwing crankbaits, caught one nice one, then finished up on Kitex and finished putting fish in the box.
What kind of water temperature were you seeing where you were at?
We were seeing anywhere
51 to 52.
51 to 52. And what was the water clarity where you were at? Did you go up or down the lake?
Well, we fished this bank right here.
All right.
Right at the end, we went down to German Creek, and the water seemed to be a little clearer down there.
Yes, sir.
But that area right there, we caught every fish.
Well, good job today, guys, and congratulations on the win.
All right, thank you.
Hey, I'm Andy Hodges, and we caught them today on the A-rig, just on the beginning and ends of the bluffs. It was slow all day, just one here, one there. We had 6 bites on it, 4 keepers.
What kind of depth were you catching them in today?
The deepest water we could find.
Deepest water you could find.
Yeah, on the bluff. Steepest part of the bluff is where it is at.
What kind of clarity were you seeing where you were at?
Kind of milky, not
Milky,
real dirty, but not real clear.
So I'd say you went up the lake today?
Maybe mid-range. We went up around 0.8 of the dam, and then worked our way back here and just went up that T-holler up here.
All right.
It's about mid part of the lake.
Good job. Good catch today. And you all finished where today?
Second.
Good job. Good catch today, y'all.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So just kind of reflecting on what we were talking about, the areas of the lake that we were catching our fish in, the spot that Dad and I were fishing was a main lake point, but it's kind of got a good spawning pocket going into just, you've got a point, and then you've got a big long pocket to one side, then you've got a little shallow cut. It's probably about 500 yards deep at max, but it's another shallow spawning pocket. I've actually caught them in spring there later in the year spawning before. A lot of fish with bloody tails in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of go on that, because I do think they're getting staged up, getting ready to, but
Yeah.
that cold front just really hurt us.
And that's a good point. Staging up, they're getting ready to, as you all saw in those videos, guys, that you just watched. Those top three were really focused in on that main lake stuff, bluffs. They were close to deep water. Whether their boat was sitting in 30 to 40 foot, fishing crankbaits, Kitex, the A-rig. Again, it was really about keying in on those fish that were still around deeper water. And I think that also goes back to what was going on with those water conditions. The lake had come up, the lake was being sucked back down, and that really pulls those fish out there to that deeper water where they have some deep water close by. So you have to always keep that in your mind as to what the water conditions are, because when we got down there to the boat ramp, you could see that like the logs and the debris and all that stuff was pushed up onto the parking area and the ramp. And because of that, you knew that water had been a lot higher already. So these guys that were focusing on the bluff ends, as you saw with Andy Hodges and Keith Lester, throwing that A-rig, which is always a dynamite bait or set up this time of year, it's just sometimes a pain to throw all day long. And you really got to get bit early, in my opinion. I've got to get bit early on it to keep throwing it.
Oh, yeah.
So have you had a lot of good days with the A rig?
The only days that I've had good days on the A rig was on Cherokee, and there was, I want to say, 2 separate tournaments,
Yeah.
and it's been like, I've always hated throwing it, just to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
when they're biting it, you can't not throw it.
Right.
So it's like the days that I've done good on it, it's normally been you start throwing it and you load the boat, and then the tournament's over, really. I mean,
Yeah.
the only good days that I've had.
Right. And it was, I also want to say this, like it was definitely a shad pattern bite. For the most part, you saw that the top 2 finished out their limits, caught those on a Kitech. So they were throwing a swim bait. You've got Andy Hodges, Keith Lester throwing an A rig. So they're imitating balls of bait. You've got Fred and Wiley doing some tight line and stuff. And with them, again, imitating that bait fish. So it was definitely more of a bait fish bite going on, more so than a crawfish or a crankbait. And I really thought, and I guess maybe if we'd had some more cloud cover, that crankbait might have played a little bit more, because it definitely seemed like the wind just shut down once that sun got up. And I got really nervous then, because again, that morning when we got our bites, that wind was whipping. So after 10 o'clock for us, we were just done. But I didn't hear of anybody necessarily just having a crazy flurry of catching all their fish at one time or anything like that.
No, it was a slow day for everybody. And I mean, from what I heard of other tournaments that were going on that day, it was just a tough day for a lot of people.
Yep.
And like I said, we go back to those conditions. It was just, those conditions were not set up for the days of fishing.
Yeah. And most of us like to fish moving style baits. A lot of our guys, we don't get tons of time on the water. We don't get tons of practice. So you go out there and you want to cover water a lot of times. But again, those bluebird skies, those fish really want to either suspend.
Slow down.
They want to slow down. They're just set up. They're not really in a feeding mode. And you've really got to trick them into it, or force feed them somewhat to get them to bite on those bluebird days. So,
and just going on that, I remember looking at the graph a lot that day and just seeing what fish I did see on the graph. They were all up in the water column, not related to the bottom. They were all sitting about mid-level.
Yeah, and that,
no matter what depths we were in.
And that first fish that I caught was a fun one, and you'll see it on the video when I put the video out for Cherokee. But that fish literally ate down on the bait, and I'd never seen it. Like I threw it out there, and the jerkbait runs down, and I'm able to watch it on the Panoptics. It gets down there, and once it comes into view, I finally find it. I see this just blob just sitting above it, and all of a sudden I pop it just a little bit, and he just shoots straight down on top of that bait to eat it. So they were definitely just hanging out in the water column. And again, fish are going to do that when the water starts to fluctuate so much. They're going to find them a good place to suspend around some deep water. So whenever you get into those situations and that water's going up, water's going down, your safest bet in those highest percentage areas, as you're seeing on this video, is focus in around deep water, steeper banks where they can change their location quickly and easily. And that seems to be the highest percentage area. Can you go back into some pockets like Dad and I did and get bit? Yeah, but it definitely seemed like the people that had an easier bite were the ones that focused in on that deeper water access. So,
those fish are going to, and there's fish out there year round. I mean, just as well as I do, there's going to be fish out there on those deeper walls, no matter what time of year.
Yeah, that is true. We see that all the time. I mean, you could go to Douglas right now. Like I said, guys, we're shooting this a little bit late. It's the very 1st of April. This Cherokee tournament was March 20th. So we're a couple weeks out. But down on Douglas right now, you could go and fish some steeper shell bluffs and get bit by some fish that are probably starting to spawn or trying to spawn. So they'll even spawn on those steeper banks. But yeah, those fish coming and going. And I think that lends itself also to our style of lakes. With the TVA dropping these lakes as much as they do, those fish don't necessarily always want to move a mile, 2 miles back into a creek that was dry for the majority of the year. So, and shoot, there may not even be any water where they spawned last year, or it may flood and there might be new places to spawn. So we don't have that style of lake.
where they spawned last year.
It may be 10 feet above. It ain't like down in Florida somewhere where the lake stays about the same height all the time. Oh, they're going to spawn over there next to that, or they're going to spawn back here. You don't know what the water level is going to be when they start spawning here in Tennessee. So that makes it kind of crazy. But again, congratulations to those guys. They did a great job. Like I said, focusing on those high percentage areas when the bite gets tough, when it's bluebird skies, especially in this pre-spawn time. Even would probably still call this a little bit late winter to pre-spawn. It definitely wasn't a full-blown pre-spawn deal. Focus on that.
Like winter.
It definitely felt like winter, yeah. So focusing on those steeper banks, focusing on that access to deep water, bluff ends, transitions on that bluff. Because again, even going down a bluff, you're going to see a change. It may go from being almost 90 degrees straight up and down to being more of a sloping bank, some broken rock, some shale, some limestone. Look for the transitions along that bluff. Look for that access to deep water. But guys, we're going to transition a little bit here now, and we're actually going to preview Chickamauga a little bit. And this is our out-of-town tournament coming up, Kelsey, and I hate that y'all are not going to get to be down there with us.
It hurts my heart that I'm not going to be able to go, but hey.
Oh, I know, but you and I both know that Chick can be a savage beast. Like, it's either feast or famine, it seems like. The one time I remember being down there in the middle of April like this, we had a massive cold front come through. I think it only took like 14 pounds to win the tournament, that BFL.
And in the days of practice, I know in one day of practice, I caught enough fish to win the tournament.
Oh, yeah. You crushed them. And so we've had our days down there where it's been great in practice or whatever, but it seems like it's tough. But this time, guys, we're going middle of April. So there's some things going on. There's going to be several tournaments on the water while we're down there. But getting down there in the middle of April, these fish should be spawning, or they should be pushing very hard to get ready to go on the beds. So let's make some predictions here, Kelsey. Let's talk a little bit about what we think is going to be happening, what you think is going to, maybe not going to pick who's going to be doing real well, because we never know on these out of town deals. But what do you think the bite's going to be? Where on the lake do you think the bite's going to be? So I'll let you go with your predictions first, guys. And we'll do a little preview here and then wrap this thing up.
I'm going to say that you're still going to find some on those bluffier walls and stuff right now, because I mean, you and I both know there's a video out there that they're still out there.
They're out there this time of year.
And I want to say somebody will be able to catch them on a swim bait or flipping a jig down those banks, especially if you got some good current. Yeah, it's really it really could happen for somebody, and I really do think this tournament is going to be where we get big fish to come into play. I mean, I do foresee somebody taking the big fish.
Right now, what we're looking at a 4.5 pound is our big largemouth for the year. I think somewhere.
I want to say so.
About a 4 1/4 to 4.5
one. I'm worried about that smallmouth.
I don't know. I think that smallmouth one's going to hold. The only place you might have to worry about that smallmouth is maybe Watauga. Watauga might get a little.
You know just as well as I do. There are some big smallmouth in there.
There are some big smallmouth in Chick. But let me put the pressure on you. Let's do it this way. I'm putting you on the water tomorrow. You've had no practice. It's tournament time. It's April, which is going to be April 15th, 16th for the date. So tomorrow's April 15th. You've had no time on the water. Where you going? What you picking up first? And maybe not an exact location, but a type of bank or whatever. And what are you picking up?
There's some little pocket areas down towards Chester Frost area, and even Chester Frost would be a good location to be back in that area. There's some good spawning areas. There's some shallow but hard bottom areas that you can expect those fish to be. And I would go and throw Texas rig worms, lizards, things like that, dragging those through those beds and flipping a jig, doing whatever. Dragging a football jig would probably be a really good idea in those areas. And if you can find them bedding, go through and try to really work on those fish, maybe with a wacky style worm or a fluke or something like that, because I really do think that there's going to be some big fish back in those pockets. I know there's one close to Chester Frost, just down the way. That's got some really good. It's got a nice point in it.
Yeah.
A little rock point, but it's more like a gravel, like a river rock gravel type deal.
Yeah.
So I really do think that those would be some of the areas to go, but they could still be on those bluffs. I mean,
No. I'm making you choose. You got to pick
Okay.
one. So I'm gonna play
Okay.
I'm gonna play the devil's
Okay.
advocate here. I'm gonna go the
Okay.
total opposite direction. Because
Okay.
I literally have to live this on Thursday because we're going down Wednesday night, no practice. I'm gonna wake up Thursday morning and just say go. So
all right.
you know me.
That's where I'd go. That's where I'd go then.
That's where you'd go. So that's where you're headed Thursday morning, no practice, dragging something around, looking for some of those big girls that are sliding up there. So I'm going to change it up. I'm staying up the lake.
All right.
There's been a major tournament of 200 to 300 boats every single weekend for the last 3 weeks coming out of Dayton. I am not leaving Richland Creek. I am staying. I'm gonna put the boat in at Blue Water, and Thursday morning I am going to pick up two things. There's those two little pockets right there next to Blue Water. That's where I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna stay right there because
There's
here's what
6-pounder that lives in there.
you know it. And I pulled in there later with Dad at the end of a tournament and busted him on a spinnerbait, but I'm not going to spinnerbait on. Two things I'm gonna have on, and this one's gonna be a little bit sneakier. A chatterbait. That's not my sneaky one. My sneaky one's the next one. So a chatterbait. Number 2 is a floating rogue. I'm gonna take that floating rogue, and I am going to. Since I've had no time on the water, I haven't seen a single thing. I don't know if there's fish moving in, moving out, what they're doing. I'm gonna cover water in these shallow pockets with a chatterbait. Dad will probably be throwing the chatterbait. And I'm going to be throwing that floating rogue. And I'm going to work that sucker through those areas, just like you're going to be dragging that Texas rig slow, trying to look for a bedder. I'm looking for somebody that's on the bed or somebody that's guarding. And I'm going to take that floating rogue and just work it down that bank real nice and slow. And then I'm going to leave and I'm going to head up
lake.
You just got to make it sound good. You know, it's like an advertisement. And then I'm going to move further up the lake because typically your upper end of the lake is going to get warmer. It's going to be warmer faster. So that should be where those fish are getting into that spawning deal a little bit quicker. It takes the lower end longer to warm up because there's just so much more water down there. But at the same time, like I said, we both have had a lot of good success down there on that lower end.
Well, I've had some good. I mean, I wasn't even thinking, but I've had some good success on that upper end too.
That is true too. You talking about those bluffs and stuff. You all won our last out of town tournament down there, flipping a tube down those bluffs. Now I know that was later on in the year.
That and throwing a chatterbait.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had a lot of fun on chatterbaits that time.
Yeah, there was one pocket we'd pull into every time, and I knew that I would catch a 4-pounder because I mean that your dad caught one there earlier that week.
Yep.
And then I ended up catching 2 of them later on that week. And then every time I pulled in there, that was the size of fish that I caught in that pocket.
Yep. And they just seem to be hanging out there. And that was more of a post spawn deal. But again, those same areas should have those fish pushing into them and stuff. So I'm excited about it. But like I said, we both of my PBs have come from that lower end. You could probably take and mark a 2-mile circle from Chester Frost. And that's where my biggest fish ever have come from on that lake. Same thing. I mean, I literally your PB that you're talking about, just go back up that bluff heading into the marina up there is where I caught my first one. And then if you go straight across the lake from Chester Frost onto those harder little, there's just some little points there, and there's a pocket like straight across when you come out of Chester Frost. And that's where I caught the one that now is my biggest PB, a little over 8 pounds. But like I said, I'm going to go down there with the mentality, no practice. I'm moving, still going to be throwing something that could really irritate a bedding bass. We got warm weather. I think it's like almost 80 down there on Sunday, high 70s Monday. It's going to cool off a little bit later in the week, but luckily it's not like it was for us that time where it goes from being like a low of 50s one night to being a low of 20 the next night and just absolutely freezes them out and stuff. So I think you're going to see fish moving up on beds. The question is, does somebody that focuses on a pre-spawn deal get some bigger bites, because those girls are ready, because these fish can get real finicky once they get up there and start pairing up with bucks.
Oh yeah.
So it's
Oh
like,
yeah. And you know just as well as I do, that lake can be fire one day and then just a
oh yeah,
a fickle beast.
yeah, you better be able
Really,
to
because
you better be able to switch on a dime, man, because that's what she does. So, but I'm with you. I think that the potential for our big bass of the year, our big largemouth of the year, is definitely going to be in jeopardy right here, and someone could lock down that big bass of the year right here. So I'm pumped for that. I'm excited for the guys that are going down all week. Hopefully, guys, you're seeing this video on Saturday or Sunday before y'all head down. But I'm excited about it. I hate that you're missing out on it. But we got some really good ones coming. Like I said, if we look ahead, we got Douglas. Do what?
I was going to make a prediction.
All right.
Big largemouth bass is going to be 952.
Ooh, 952.
I think
All right,
somebody's
I'm gonna take the under on that, and you're gonna owe me dinner. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna go out to eat after a tournament. You're gonna owe me dinner on it. I'm gonna take the under on that, and if it's 952 or higher, I'll buy you dinner and dessert. All right.
All right.
That's a deal.
Sounds good.
That's a deal.
Sounds good.
So, boys, y'all heard it here. So, if y'all are in there cramming lead weights down a fish's throat because it's 9.5 pounds trying to get Kelsey dinner and dessert, I'm gonna be awfully upset. But
I'm hungry.
He's hungry. You all make sure you take care of Kelsey. He needs some help, boys. You go find you a 952. Now, these boys are going to kill me sitting in the classroom on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if they're down there sending me pictures of like 10 pounders and 8 pounders. But I want to see Dad like pee his pants or have a heart attack sitting there looking at an 8, 9, 10 pounder on the bed, just trying to catch it. He'd die. He would really die. But like I said, it could happen. But like we're getting into, you got some good ones coming up too. When we get back, I know everybody can't make it out of town, and that's unfortunate. We're gonna miss all y'all that can't make it. But you got Douglas coming up in May, which is going to be a killer tournament.
I'm looking forward to it. I've got my game plan ready for that. Just because I'm missing one doesn't mean I'm not ready for the next.
Yeah, so I mean that one's going to be good. Watauga at the beginning of June that one has another potential for some really big fish to be caught, and should be getting some good top water there. So we've got a couple good tournaments. Guys, again, I want to just kind of wrap this up by saying thanks to everybody that's been fishing with us. We've had great turnouts this year. Y'all are awesome coming out and fishing with us. We're getting word around the community. People know who we are. They're seeing good things from us. And again, this is an outreach ministry, something where we want to have an impact with the gospel, and we want to have an impact on people's lives, showing them that Christ loves them and cares about them. And y'all are doing an awesome job at that. We want to thank TVA Employees Credit Union, Knoxville TVA Credit Union, that helped us out here with Cherokee. They were our sponsor. Going down to Chickamauga, got Kingsport CPA that will be the sponsor for that one. So, guys, we want to thank those sponsors. Give them a shout out anytime you can, or share on Facebook if you see their stuff. Go follow them over there. So we just definitely want to say thank you to them. Look forward to doing some more of these recap shows, guys. We enjoy them. If there's certain things you want to see or have us talk about specifically in the video about the past tournament or whatever, or even talk about on the next one that we can catch back up, let us know. But again, appreciate Kelsey helping me out, being my co-host here for these. It's a lot of fun just sit here and kind of reminisce. We get to learn a lot from you all. And again, that's our goal here, is that you all learn from this club and the other anglers that are fishing with us, guys. So, Kelsey, any last words, man?
Go catch them next week, guys.
Hey, there you go, boys. Swing for the fences. I'll see y'all down at Dayton, Chickamauga Lake, or out of town.